So this is a tutorial on how to make a table. The table is going to be pretty straightforward, basic table. And we'll look at how to texture, and then we're going to create an environment for that table. So in the end, you have something that looks kind of like this. So notice the textured walls and the format of how the room's going to look. Alright, to get started, we're going to start with a basic cube. And notice the tools on the bottom. This one for scaling the sides. If you grab the colors, you'll get a scale for one of the sides, but if you just grab and press S on your keyboard, you can scale the whole thing. What we want to actually do is scale everything to a long rectangle. And then switch over to edit mode. And in edit mode, we're going to use extrude, and this extrusion, enter, and scale down is going to allow us to bring in the bottom edge of the table in, so we can create some kind of a cavity. Like so. Next we need to add the legs. But first, I'm going to show you how to incorrectly add the legs. While still in edit mode, if I add a mesh, that is add a cube, it'll be part of the main product. We don't want to do that. We want to keep them separate. So hit tab, go back to object mode, add your mesh. And with this cube, you notice there's two separate objects. That way we can move things around and everything won't be stuck together. We're going to scale that cube down. We're going to use the scale S to resize it that way, but better yet, we're going to use the scale on the sides so that we can scale the sides down into a rectangular shape. In this case, we want the size of a leg. Alright, switching back over to the move tool. I'm going to slide it into position using the arrows. Definitely the color arrows are the way to go. If you try to not move it without using the arrows, it's going to go all over the place. Now work on getting that table leg into position. Ever so carefully. Close enough. Alright, one leg down. Now we're going to duplicate our leg. And that's done by using a keystroke combination. Shift D, enter. After hitting enter, you can then move it. If you don't hit enter, the duplicate stays put. Shift D, enter, and then drag it over again. Quick enough. Shift D, enter, using the green arrow to move it. Shift D, enter, grab the green arrow, drag it over, and it maintains a straight line when you grab the arrow. If you don't grab the arrow, the leg can go all over the place. If you ever make a mistake, Control Z, try again. So there's the basic table. Hopefully by getting this far, you have a general understanding of how the program works. But next, we're going to make sure we know how to save our file. And what you do is save as, make sure the name is called whatever you want, .blend, and keep it in your project file. Make sure it's in your multimedia folder, whatever it is that you have. Notice the drives on the left hand side. And you're going to press save. If you've gotten this far, you're in pretty good shape. Next, we're going to add some texture. We want to make it look like a table with wood texture. So in Google, we're going to type in wood texture. The internet is filled with all kinds of texture maps which you can use for 3D modeling, simply by putting in what you're looking for plus the word texture. In this case, we're going to take a wood texture and we're going to save it to our Blender folder, the folder we're working in. To stay organized, make sure it's in the same folder where your Blender file is. Notice how I have it alongside my Blender file. So next you're going to click on the table top and then use that little globe symbol, which is adding a new material. We want to make sure we understand what materials are. Now, materials are kind of like the foundation for everything. It's not a texture yet. It's just, adding colors and such. And the idea here is when you are selected on a material and you change the color, whatever assignment that has, it's going to take. So in this case, the table is under the first material, and so we're going to give it a general look for our planning purposes. It's like color coding, if you will. It's just giving it a color that we can understand. See, so material 1 and material 2, we're going to have two different color codings, so we understand. We're going to assign everything wood under this material option. So next we're going to add the texture. In the texture tab, it's the one that looks like a checker, and we're going to add the texture. The texture type we're going to choose, we could choose wood. There's a built-in wood function, but we're going to show how to input your own texture. In this case, you're going to open up the file and it's going to be applied to that table. If we hit F12, we render it out and we see that it is wood texture table. That's the same texture we grabbed from the web. Now escape gets you out of that mode, so now you can see the table. Move the camera around a little bit so we can get a better shot of it, and there it is. We can get a better look at the table. The legs need to be added, so we go to click on the leg and we go to material and we choose from the material the wood textures, and we repeat that step for each of the legs, and they will all have the wood texture. I like to give the texture name so that we can identify it for later, so it's called wood, and see how it's among the list of textures or materials, sorry. So F12, now we have a wooden table with the same texture all the way through. Hit escape to get out of that mode. Now it's time to build an environment for our table. We have a table with wood texture, but we want to mess around with the light and the camera and try different things. So experiment with the light, moving it around in different positions. If you move the light closer, the table will look much different than if you move the light further away. Now you can duplicate the light and add two lights. This gives a better look sometimes when viewing the table. Whatever your object, adding and subtracting lights and moving your lights will help. Next, we're going to add another cube to make our room. We're going to scale this cube after we remove the sides. And in edit mode, we can click and delete the sides so that we have a room that we can look inside and have two walls and a floor. In object mode, we're going to scale the entire cube. That's object mode. cube up to the bottom of the floor, removing that so we don't see the grid. Then we're going to shift select all the table parts so that we can move the table in one motion. So shift select each one of those, grab the blue line arrow and drag the table up higher. And if we render it out, we don't see anything. Well, that's because the lights are not present. The camera isn't present. Let's bring the camera back into view. There's a black dark table with no light, so we need to get the lights in there. So we move the lights in forward on the other side of the wall. They are now in the room, and there's our table with the shadow on the floor. Move the camera out a little bit so we can see the table better. Here's a trick for moving the camera around. Select the camera, hit period, shift F, and then scroll out on your mouse. And if you move your mouse to the left or right, in this case we'll move it to the left, it's like flying around. You scroll forward, you move forward. You turn right, you turn right. You scroll backwards, you move backwards. It's kind of an interesting perspective, but you're pretty much flying the camera around so that you can get a better shot. So we're going to frame up the table and rooms as such, and then we're going to hit F12, render it out, and we there have our table. Now if you notice the lights were way too close, I'm going to have to bring those much higher. So we're going to drag those around, move it up higher. Let's take a look. And that's much better. Looks like a room with two lights. So now we're going to get back into edit mode. We're going to choose the wall, and we're going to subdivide the wall so that we can create some kind of a window, some kind of something to look through or something to mess with the lights. We're going to delete the subdivided squares in the middle there. So we have a window, and you can change and do things to it, make it thicker and add different things. But for now we're just messing around. Let's move the lights. So we have one light in the room, one light outside of the room through the window. Gives us a different effect. I'm just going to move the light over a little bit. You can adjust the lights however you want. The idea is to kind of get an idea, learn how the lights work. And now we're going to mess with the exterior environment. That's like the sky and so forth that surrounds the room. And this is kind of interesting. Messing around with the colors here, you notice that you have ambient colors and interior colors and horizon colors. So watch what happens when you mess around with these. F12? Wow, pretty crazy. Well, that blue tint all over the table there isn't going to work out. And that one is not this one. No, it's the last one on the far right, I think. No, it's the one with the light blue. There we go. It's actually, before we do that, I want to show you stars. There we go. Check out some stars. Kind of cool. There we go. But to get rid of that blue, that light blue color over the table, it's under ambient color. Just drop it down to pure black. And there you have it. So next we're going to want to do is maybe add some more lighting. Under add, lamp, and add in a light. Put it outside. Add the sun even. Go to add sun. Next we're going to add some texture to our walls. And look for wallpaper texture. Save it to our folder. In edit mode, select the wall. Add a new material. And call it wallpaper or wall. Okay, once the material's there, you can add the texture. And remember, we add an image, and we go open. We find the wallpaper. If we can't see it, we can expand it using that view. And there it is. However, that wallpaper does not look right. We need to do an adjustment. Down here, where it says projection flat, we want cube. And F12 again. That looks more uniform. Now the problem is the floor, and we don't want the floor to have the wallpaper. Select just the floor. Still in edit mode. Look for tile texture. Save it to your folder. Go to material. Let's add a new material. Call this floor. And under texture, by the way, you got to scroll up sometimes. We're going to add a new texture. So the material will contain the texture from an image. Open the image. Find the tile. Okay, well that didn't work. I know why. What you need to do is over at Materials, click on Materials, the globe, and you see this wall and floor. We need to actually say, we have to assign the selected piece to the floor texture. So we have to press the Assign button. That's not it. Select the floor and assign it. There we go. So that piece of the cube only has the tile texture, whereas the walls have the wall texture. And that's pretty much a good starter for you. Feel free to try other things. Add different textures, change up the lighting, add some different chairs, maybe something on the table. Good luck with that. Have fun.